This is the Parra podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Eels Club, and co-sponsors Beau Cook from Loan Market, Scott from Brightside Detailing and Ceramics, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Clothing, the official clothing partner of the Parra podcast, and the official media partner of the Parra podcast, the Parramatta Times.
Welcome to another episode of the Parra podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Parra Cave.
And yes, hello and welcome to another cracking episode of the Parra podcast. My name is Troy Warner, and I will bring you this episode and every other episode that you'll hear on this podcast. Before I go any further, how good is the new intro music? Do you like it? I love it. I reckon it sounds great. A huge thank you to Jamie Galea from the band Rough Diamond who put that together. Now, you'll be able to find them on Facebook for gig locations. So you can hear much more of that pumping music. He also did the outro for me as well. I reckon they both sound great. What are your thoughts? Drop a comment on social media about what you think. Now to this week's chat, and it's with someone who has played for the club that I love, the Parramatta Eels, but also represented London and Wigan and Widnes over in the English Superleague as well, and also represented a couple of Aboriginal teams as well who had some games which we talk about in the podcast, and his name is Dennis Moran. Now, you may remember Dennis. He was a hooker for the Parramatta Eels, used to do those little darting runs out of dummy half, scored some great tries. This was recorded a few weeks ago live in the Parra Cave, so I really appreciate Dennis for coming over to the Parra Cave and doing this interview face to face. So I think you'll really enjoy this episode, as I did as well, and it was great to catch up with Dennis and listen to his rugby league story. Now, this wouldn't be possible at all without the help of the sponsors who you heard at the top of the show. Major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Eels Club, Beau Cook from Loan Market, Scott from Brightside Detailing and Ceramics, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Teamwear, the official apparel sponsor of the Parra podcast, and the Parramatta Times, the official media partner of the Parra podcast. More details about the sponsors and the Parra podcast merchandise, which you can purchase now after the chat with Dennis, so stay tuned for that one and that information. But it's enough of me talking, so as Hindy says,
get a beer, coffee, whatever you want.
Sit back, relax, and enjoy, and let's get straight into it.
Yeah, g'day guys. My name's Dennis Moran, former Parramatta Eels from the 97 to 2000. I'm here today to chat with Troy from the Parra Cave podcast.
And as you heard from his intro, my guest today on the Parra Cave podcast is a former NRL player with the club that I love, the Parramatta Eels, but also played over in England as well in the English Superleague for the London Broncos and the Wigan Warriors, but also played for Lee and Widnes as well. One of my favourite players at the Eels as well, known for his little darting runs from dummy half and scoring tries and the like. So welcome to the Parra podcast, Mr. Dennis Moran.
Yeah, g'day Troy. Thanks, mate. Thanks for the invite.
Not a problem. Thank you for taking the time and coming to the Parra Cave for this interview. Really enjoy it. And we're going to enjoy this one. We'll start off with, what are your early memories of growing up in Armidale, I believe, and was rugby league always something that you played as a kid?
Yeah, look, growing up back in Armidale, we've got a lot of relatives up there and uncles, cousins and, dads that play a lot of footy. And, our local Indigenous side up there is the London and Eels. So it's sort of in line with the old Parramatta Eels. And, I think it was born in us. We're destined to play rugby league no matter what. With everyone, it was, footy in the morning before school and then footy after school. So, yeah, it was footy, every day, all day, really, pretty much. So, yeah, it was great memories growing up home, though. But, yeah.
Was then the Eels the team that you supported, or was there another one?
No, actually, I was a Balmain supporter.
Okay.
I liked Gary Jack, the way he played the game at fullback, and especially his tackling and all that. The way he chased down and took the guys over the sideline. So I was a Balmain supporter. But now I'm a Rabbitohs supporter, so yeah, I have got a soft spot for the Eels, though. Don't get me wrong. I always like them to see them win. So, but it's been a big jump to with the support in different clubs and that. So
you said you're a Rabbitohs man now. Who are some of your favourite players at the Rabbitohs these days?
You obviously got the likes of, Cody Walker and Latrell and all that, that stand out. But, playing a hooker as well is one of my favourite positions. But, Cameron Murray also is up there. And, but look, at the end of the day, I just think I like all the way they play the game. Rugby league these days is sort of, they're all sort of playing the same style of footy. But it's a good game to watch every weekend. So yeah, I enjoy still playing the football.
So you mentioned there a couple proud Indigenous men, Cody Walker and Greg Inglis, Latrell Mitchell. That's the one. What about Indigenous players? Who have been some of your favourites from over the years?
Yeah, growing up, Johnny Simon was one of my favourites. That's where I first started, down at the Steelers.
Okay.
As a young 16-year-old down there playing Harold Match and SG Ball, Johnny Simon was one that I, kept a close eye on growing up in the ranks down there. Then you got Ronnie Gibbs. But, I probably really looked up to my uncles.
Okay.
I thought, they were just as good as any NRL player that, was playing around at the time. And, all my uncles back home from Armidale, that inspired me to, to go on to be bigger and better than them. So
then you mentioned there Illawarra. How did you go from Armidale and end up at Illawarra? Who supported you to get there?
Yeah, no, we growing up, in Armidale, rugby league was always a passion. And then, the schoolboys came along, the under-15s tournament, so I ended up making the New South Wales in combined Catholic colleges. And then, we went up to Harvey Bay that year in 1992. And, made the Australian merit side up there, and then got picked up by the Illawarra Steelers through a gentleman called Graham Chaffee.
Okay.
At the time, there was he was the development officer for the Country Rugby League in Armidale at the time.
And then was it just a fact of slowly trying to make your way through the grades at Illawarra, or?
Yeah, look, it was a tough gig when we were down there. I had no family members when I first moved down. Wasn't uncertain as well. Living with another family, going to different schools and that as well. growing up in Armidale, being the in the household, the youngest of of 12, so it was pretty daunting. But if that's what I wanted to do, I had to make sure that I concentrated on footy. Down there it was a tough gig. Like you're coming from a small country town, a little skinny crew kid, and.
Yep.
They're already in the system with doing weights and that, and there was a few big boys at the time. So, but it was actually pretty good and good challenge, and I like the challenge and always do.
And then how did you find yourself going to Parramatta?
Well, I ended up going back home for a year in Armidale. I got a bit homesick.
Yep.
In '95, and then went back down to Illawarra then for '96 season, and then Noel Cleal was actually the Parramatta development officer at the time. Come and spoke to me and asked if I wanted to come to Parramatta. So thanks to Noel, he got me going, convinced me to go to Parramatta in '97. And I'm thankful that he did come and approach me. That was the year I made my debut at the same time.
Was he running the Parramatta house at the time? Did you move into that
no,
house?
I wasn't in the Parramatta house, thank goodness. So,
Yeah.
it was. I actually got a place of my own.
Okay.
So we I ended up living in a different unit.
Yeah.
On Pennydills Road, and I was there by myself, and I had a lot of family members. Obviously, by then wanted to come down and watch games and that.
Okay,
And so, it wasn't a lonely house, that's for sure. We had a lot of relations come along and stay with us to enjoy the weekends.
Well, yeah, you did make your NRL debut in '97 against North Sydney at the old SFS, and I mean, talk about a pressure game, a finals game to make your debut. What are your memories of that game?
Mate, I remember, Brian coming up to me during the week on the Monday morning, and he just, he said to me, he goes, "Oh, look, this weekend we're gonna put you in the squad. We're not sure if we are going to play you as yet, but you're in our training squad for this week. And so you won't be playing, back in the lower grades." And so, no worries. But, coming to the game day, I woke up about, 5:30 that morning, laying there nervous, and I remember going for a ride on the bike that morning because I was that nervous.
Okay,
But, we also had one of our motivation speakers that came in during the week as well, and I forgot his name, but I remember the man quite clearly. He said he had no legs actually, and he came in and he spoke to us, and he said it's okay to be afraid, and it's that's one of the things that always stuck in my head about just go out there and go and play as hard as best you can. And on the day, it was quite good.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. Didn't come away with the results that we wanted, but at the end of the day, it was something that I strived to achieve as growing up as a kid.
You mentioned Brian Smith there, Coach Brian Smith. What was he like for you during your time at Parramatta?
Yeah, Smitty was pretty good. He had a lot of smart ideas, that I still take into coaching these days that I use. He knew what to look for in the opposition, and he was just a good people's person as well. So, outside footy, you can always have a laugh as well. Sometimes you get coaches that once you're away from footy, they don't want to talk. They keep talking about footy.
Okay.
But Smitty was the type of person that also asks about your family and that as well. So he was pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've heard from a lot of former Eels players at that time that he is one of the best coaches that they've ever had playing rugby league.
Yep.
The next year, again, you play North Sydney. This time it's at Parramatta Stadium, which you won this game. And one thing that stands out for me in this game is Jimmy Dimmick and his comment to the referee. I think he got in a little bit of a stink, and he said, "Oh yeah, of course I hit of course I hit him. I smashed him," which stands out for me. Do you remember that one at all?
No, I don't. I do remember the game though, because that was the game that I got ended up getting suspended. So after that game, but yeah, I don't remember that comment from Jimmy, but I do remember how intense it was, because we still had from the last year, from '97 season, and that game was a really important and real physical game for us, and just to go out there and play against them again, and it was it was good to come away with a win that time.
Just what was it like playing with those experienced players? I mean, the big Canterbury four, you could say, that came across: Dean Page, Aaron McCracken, Jim Dimmick, Jason Smith. What were they like?
Mate, they were unbelievable. I tell everyone now that that's who I sort of would like to base, what I've learnt over the years from Jimmy Dimmick.
Yeah.
From my debut right through to his career end over in England, at the London Broncos. I just loved the way Jimmy played. I liked his attitude, and he was just a pure leader on and off the field. He knew that when the time was to focus on footy, that's all it was. But away from footy, it was just also a good mate.
Yep.
And that's how I like to to be as well. Not just all about football all the time. Yeah, but Jimmy and Jason Smith and Dino and Jared, those four at the time at Parramatta. I think a lot of the young boys strived off that being, when they play for him. Yeah. And as you know, I think there was quite a few young players come through that year, made their debuts. And, a lot of them went on to, play for Australia. The likes of Kalis in New Zealand, but, the two Hindmarsh boys, Mickey Vella, Birdie, a lot of those guys were in the younger age group at the time as well when I was there.
Do you think Jim will become a head NRL coach one day?
I don't think he wants that job.
Really?
I just think Jimmy would like more of the assistant one, because he don't get sacked.
Yeah, it's a tough gig.
So, but look, I think he's just got as a tough job as it is as an assistant.
Yeah.
He's got to go and deliver the bad news, sometimes to players and that. But yeah, Jimmy's been around, in the assistant role for quite a while. It'd be good to see him to actually, take on a role.
Yeah.
I think he'd be a great coach. And as I said, he's a great person, away from footy as well. So it's not just all about football for him. It's, good mateships as well.
Yeah, no, it would be good to see him get a head coaching job at some stage. Now, my favourite Eels player, Nathan Hindmarsh, he was starting out his career at the time that you were playing there as well. What was it like having Hindy as a teammate?
Mate, it was unbelievable with Hindy, because you knew that you're always going to be someone chasing back in cover and defence. Even at training, I still remember a day we were training, up at Kellyville there, and we were absolutely just targeting each side of the field. And then we went back to the middle, and then we made a break, and I got the ball off of Dean Pay. I've gone through to make, and I've only had the fullback to beat, and for some reason I just knew someone else was chasing me. And who was it when I turned around? It was obviously him, and you always knew that someone was going to be there to cover your back, but always putting their hands up, mate. It was at training, whether it was in the gym or out in the field, it was just a freak. He just went beyond his expectations of, what's required from him. And then that's the type of player that you want around you.
Yeah, no, definitely for sure. The next season, 99, mostly off the bench, a few starting games at hooker. Did you think by then you were starting to make it in the NRL?
Yeah, look, I did. I thought I started to find my feet a little bit. Being more of, I didn't mind coming off the bench, as a hooker.
Yep.
I remember playing one game against Newcastle. I played every position except front row.
Okay.
So Smitty, I got thrown around a little bit in that game, and that was the only position I didn't play in that game was front row.
Yeah, wow.
With everything that was happening, he from in the centres, he went to the wing. Yeah, now you're playing lock, now you're playing second row. But I do remember the second row one, especially because we got a penalty and we had a set move that, once from the tap off, the second row was got to take the hit up, and I thought, oh yeah, here we go. And then so I looked in the line, I thought, right, well, who am I going to run out here so I don't get myself in a little bit in trouble? So I picked out Andrew Johns. Well, wasn't that a mistake as well? So he just, went at Johnsy and upended me. And but look, I thought I was trying to find my feet there, but as I said, I like coming off the bench. I didn't mind coming off the bench. It gives me the opportunity, to scoot out and, play a bit of footy when the big guys are tired.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's probably what you were sort of known for at Parramatta, is coming off the bench and just adding that little bit of impact and having those scooting sort of runs from the half. 99, you play the prelim final against Melbourne. What are your thoughts about that game? I thought you should have won it. I thought Stephen Kearney should have been sent off with the elbow to Jason Smith.
Yeah. It was quite interesting, that game, because I thought we should have won that game too. I think there was just a few little things that happened during that game that we assumed that's the right thing to do. But look, end of the day, it's football for you. There's no pointing the finger at anyone. It was a team effort on that day. So. Yeah, look, it was disappointing that we didn't actually go on to win that one, but, referees make decisions and, players make mistakes as well. So, yeah, it was quite, little bit disappointing.
And it must have been difficult for the club as well, because the next season you make the prelim final against the Broncos as well. I mean, that's three prelims in a row, and unfortunately Parramatta go down. So that must be difficult for the club and the players.
Yeah, no, it was. We had decided to do it. 3 years in a row. We just couldn't get over that final whistle. It was disappointing. Would have been a great honour to go to Parramatta hasn't won a grand final since '87, I think, or somewhere around that. But it would have been fantastic, and reserve grade. Played a couple of reserve grade grand finals, but it's not the same as making a first grade grand final and walking them over that ring and that premiership.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. They went again close last year as well, and hopefully this season they can get the job done.
Yeah.
And then 2001, you moved to the UK and signed with the London Broncos. First of all, why the move to London? Did you want to stay in the NRL and at Parramatta?
Yeah, look, Parramatta ended up signing Brad Drew.
Okay, yeah.
At the time, and I got my manager to speak to other clubs, all because they signed Drewy, and we still had PJ Marsh there at the time as well. So it was going to be a little bit of a battle to they're getting that number 9 or number 7 spot.
Yeah.
Parra also still had Benny Custo on that there as well. So it was going to be a bit difficult to cement a first grade spot. So my manager put the feelers out there, and as I said, Jimmy Dimmick got in contact with me and said, would you be interested in coming to England? So I jumped on the opportunity, got a little bit, go and travel around the world, do a bit of travelling and, play in a different country. So, just took that up. Would have liked to stay in the NRL, but, end of the day, you do what's best for yourself. So, moved on over to the London Broncos.
For a mindset sort of thing, how was it difficult or pleasing for you to see Parramatta make the grand final in 2001?
It was actually pleasing because of my cousin who was in the side, Dino, at the time.
Yeah.
It was good to see them go, make that grand final. It was just disappointing that they lost, so... But, look, at the end of the day, you always want what's best for your old teammates and that.
Yeah.
And it was good to see him make that grand final, but, as everyone knows, it's just disappointing when you lose them.
Yeah, that's it. Was Richard Branson the owner of London at the time that you were over there?
He was part owner at the time
Okay.
when I arrived there. I think he was 100% owned by him the previous year.
Okay.
But I think one of his partners was jumped in and took after the club.
Did you ever get to meet Richard?
No, unfortunately not. The boys before the year before, actually, they went to the Logies.
Okay.
That was in England, and Richard invited all the team along, so I missed out. Yeah, it was unfortunate, but it would have been good though.
That's disappointing.
Yeah.
And again, you were playing with Jimmy Dimmick over there for London. What was it like playing for the Broncos?
It was a different style of football. Obviously, the grounds are a little bit smaller.
Yep.
And the speed of the game, but it's still like I think we had nearly 14 Aussies and Kiwis in the side. So we had a really good team.
Yep.
Look, it was the style of footy was completely different. But having Jimmy around, he changed it to the way we did play at Parramatta. A few of the boys learnt the way that we were doing our Dino and all that, and Jared and Jason Smith used to play, and
Okay.
Jimmy bring all his expertise along, and was just teaching the younger boys. It was and a lot of those younger guys went on to play for England as well, so it was good.
And then the move to English Glamour Club, Wigan. That must have been exciting to play for them, but also, was there an expectation to win at such a club?
Yeah, look, the move to Wigan was, it from my point of view, especially my career, that it was a bit disappointing. The expectation when you go up there, the crowd can either make you or break you. The supporters up there are just they're unbelievable. Being a big club, you got to live up to the expectations of winning week in and week out, and we didn't have the 2 good seasons that I was there. We didn't go too well. But look, we went. I think we went through 4 coaches.
Okay, yeah.
So it was a bit disappointing. But as I said, it's the game. People's just got to put the effort in, and unfortunately, I think we're 1 game off from getting relegated. 2 years in a row. So, it was wasn't the happiest times at Wigan, but look, it made me to go on to be a better person. At the other clubs that I went to as well.
What did you like about the crowds over there compared to the crowds in Australia?
Well, what I liked about them was, they love to get into it and, yell and scream at you, and they're so close. The problem is that, over there it's small towns, everyone knows who you are. Like, when we was in London, it was fine.
Yeah.
You had, I think, nearly 4 million people who didn't know who London Broncos were, so... we had a small minority of over there that followed rugby league. But when you move up north, it's a total different story. They all love rugby league up there, and you can't walk around the shops without someone, knowing who you are, or, and if you had a terrible game or the team wasn't going too good, you want to get Uber Eats, but we didn't have that at the time.
Because they'd let you know about it.
Oh, they'd let you know, all right, yeah, so... But, look, they're just very passionate, supporters and, everything over there, from soccer, to league and union, so...
Did they have do you remember a Dennis Moran song after scoring a try? Did they have one for you?
No, actually, I can't remember. I didn't really score too many when I was at Wigan, but, I can't even remember if they did.
It's usually a highlight for players when they score a try.
Yeah,
The crowd gets
London
into
Broncos may have had one. Yeah, but I was too caught up with the celebrations on the field to be listening to any songs afterwards, I'd say.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Now, mentioned before you're a proud Indigenous man, and one thing that I want to touch on is your representative games, because in 1999, you represented the Aboriginal team, and now that was before the All-Stars concept that we see today.
Yep.
Must be a pretty proud moment for yourself and your family as well.
Yeah. Like, we had there was an All-Star. We had the Indigenous side back in, and I think it was 97 as well. Not 97, 90, probably 98, 99. Either one of those 2 years where they had we had an Indigenous side that played against the Kumals actually. Yeah. We had 2 games against them, and that was all the NRL boys as well. So we played them up in one was in Cairns and the other one was at Campbelltown. We had the likes there. We had Johnny Simon in the side as well. There was like Kevin McGuinness, Owen Craigie, all those boys. It was actually a really good side. So that was the first Indigenous team that we played. But to make that side, to play the Maoris in '99, that was really exciting actually. Being away from the game for so long over in England, and then came home and got selected to play in that. With the boys, except for the Aussie boys that was in the Australian side.
Yeah.
The likes of JT and Thurston at the time, and GI and the other boys in there. Sammy Thaiday, I think, was another one that was in the Australian side. But to play with the rest of the boys, it was some experience. It was really good game. Real physical game too.
Yeah.
That both cultures didn't hold back, and I think it was shown before with the war cry and the yaka.
Definitely, and there's always a lot of passion in that game, in those games that we see in the All-Star games these days. That original team in '99, I think you were coached by the immortal Arthur Beetson. What was Arthur like?
Yeah, no, look, mate, as a coach and again off the field, Arthur was, one of the top blokes. And he also did that Indigenous side I was talking a little bit about early on, with all that. He was a great man, very smart man, on and off the field, as with all these accolades that he's come through with and all that, and just being from the Indigenous heritage as well, he really supported Aboriginal people and that, and it was great to be able to be coached by someone like Artie Beetson.
Yeah, definitely an immortal of rugby league, and after playing, you delved into some coaching as well, and is that something that you enjoy doing, coaching rugby league? Yeah,
look, I do enjoy it. I've got 4 boys at the moment.
Yep.
And I'm coaching my 14-year-old, and
okay.
It's a bit challenging. But I do enjoy coaching. I coached, when we moved back to Australia, back out to Parks, New South Wales. I played for the first couple of years, and then I jumped in as captain coach. So I enjoy coaching. I like being around footy still.
Yep.
Still get a little bit frustrated with what's going on out there. Wish we can be out there, but I do enjoy coaching, and I want to see all kids be happy and learn how to play the game properly.
Is that as you said, is it a difficult thing coaching your son? Frustrating at times, I guess.
Yeah, it is, and especially when you know their ability as well.
Yep.
You know what your own kids are capable of doing, and then when they don't do it, you sort of get a little bit frustrated. But everyone makes mistakes, as you can see. Even in the top grade NRL boys, they make the simplest mistakes, and you just got to teach the boys to overcome those stuff. And let them know that this happens in a game. And how they move on and, not to do it again next time.
Well, speaking of current day NRL, and something that's talked about a lot these days, and that's the hip drop tackle. As yourself being a smaller defender, what are your thoughts on the hip drop tackle? Is it something that just happens, or is it something that just happens in milliseconds, or is it something that clubs train for and players train for?
I think clubs train for it at the start. We know that a certain club where it all came from and how it started, but I think that these days I think it's just accidental.
Okay.
They don't go out intentionally to do a hip drop. I think there was one on the weekend where Payne Harsey, he got accused of doing a hip drop, and now look at that tackle. He's not had no intentions of doing that on purpose. I think it was just accidental, but I think the game's changing a lot. And I think, to be honest, I don't think it's some of the calls that they are being made ain't the right calls either. But as everyone says, referees make mistakes. The bunker makes mistakes, but it's got to be more consistent in everything they do. Because sitting back watching on TV, and you do get frustrated, and you just don't want to watch rugby league, and that's the last thing that we want our fans doing, is not wanting to watch the game because it's silly little things that that's been picked up.
Yeah, I agree. As a fan myself, I'm very frustrated and confused. And what is a hip drop? What isn't a hip drop? Why do some players get sin bin? Why do others don't? It's definitely something that's talked about these days, and something that needs to be cleared up, I think. And I dare say that it's been happening for a long time, but we're just focusing on it now.
Yeah, that's right. There's more focus on a lot of stuff these days. If you go back to the early 90s or even the late 80s, they wouldn't know what a head eye was.
Yeah,
you get away with it.
Definitely.
So. Yeah, I think it's a lot of focus is on, like the head concussions and, with a lot of players that actually, come away with, a bit of dementia and all that from their head-eye shots and all that. And then you can understand why the league has cracked down on it, and which is fair enough. But, again, you got to be consistent in everything. And I think, I don't like to say it, but I think some of our boys are actually, taking advantage of some of the rules that that apply now.
Yep.
I do remember watching a certain game where one player was actually held right next to the sideline, and he deliberately put his arm out because he was already called held, and then the linesman put his flag up to get a penalty.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's not rugby league.
No.
That's not sportsmanship.
No.
If you're going to do stuff like that, go and play a different code.
Yeah. And speaking of these days, what are your thoughts on the NRL today compared to when you played? What excites you? What disappoints you?
Just the speed of the game excites me.
Yeah.
You see now, the second rowers are all ball players, like front rowers are ball players. When before, you rarely get to see those type of players do that. As I was saying before, like Dean Pay, he was a ball playing front rower. And now you see a lot of those guys, doing the at the back for the halves, and then you got the second rowers who can ball play. They're kicking. It's exciting to see the speed of the game, but obviously again comes with injuries as well, and they got to work a way out to try and be consistent with everything they do. And then two, just, let the boys be out there and just playing footy. They don't go out intentionally to do all some of the stuff that's being called, but, yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly this season has been the closest in a long time, and any team can win on their day. I mean, at the time of this recording, we saw yesterday the Dolphins, the new team in the NRL, 26-0 down and come back and win the game. So there's some amazing results there. Now, this interview is being brought to you exclusively by Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, and when I mentioned his name, a bit of a smile there because these days you're playing touch footy with him. What is that like?
Yeah, no, it's good. Shan's a character. He's a lot of try assist that's been happening from him. Without him in our team, I think we'll be on the bottom of the table. But Shan's character and his support play and pushing up with us. I think some of the NRL clubs could look at that, the way he does things on, off the ball. So yeah, he's really good enjoying it with him.
And playing touch footy, is that just something that keeps you like playing competitiveness?
Just a bit of fun, by playing around with the kids and that. Bit of touch football there and then, but trying to keep up with them is a different story. So it's more of on the wing for myself and Shannon, and we just try and do the cutout passes, and hopefully, it just sticks. So, but it just keeps me active. Keeps the weight off as well, so which is good.
Definitely. It's always good fun. We'll move into some common league questions. Do you have a favourite game that you played in during your career?
Favourite game? I would have to say the Melbourne game. Yeah, the 99. I think it was the Panthers game before that.
Okay.
Yeah. That was my favourite game. I had all my mum and that down, all the relatives down. I think that was the most memorable game that I enjoyed the most at Parramatta.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a couple over in England, but,
Is there a favourite try that you scored during your career, one that stands out?
Yeah, that's the same game.
Okay.
I remember Jimmy put a kick through and I chased the kick and then, kicked on again, and it was out of me and the winger that chased for it, and that ended up getting the ball on him. So, it was good. That's the most memorable one. Yep.
Nice. Now, other than your home ground, either in England or Australia, did you have a favourite ground that you used to love playing at?
Yeah, Sydney Football Stadium.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I loved playing on that field. Obviously, being my first grade debut one against North Sydney, but just the atmosphere there was it was really put it closed in on you, and the crowd, you can hear them. But the biggest one was when we played, I think it was when we St George in 2000 at the Homebush. So that was another experience, not to forget as well. So it was really good there too.
Yeah, definitely. That was, I think 99, and that was Nathan Hindmarsh got knocked out, I think, very early on, and 100,000 people there.
Yeah.
It was, a great night, that one.
She was quite loud that game, so you couldn't hear each other on the field. It was the crowd was just making that much noise. It was good. Yeah.
Did you have a least favourite, one that you didn't like playing at? For whatever reason?
In the UK, I hated going up to Wigan.
Okay.
Yeah, hated going up to Wigan.
How did that go when you played at Wigan?
Yeah, I know. It was a different story. But them and St Helens, it was it was too close for, they were right on top of you.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't very, very comfortable.
a few sledges coming from the crowd.
Oh, you can hear them. It was like they're whispering in your ear. It was that close. Yeah, you can hear everything over there.
Who was the hardest player to tackle?
Stands out very well, and I keep telling my boys this one was Gordon Tallis.
Okay, yeah.
It was in that semi-final at Homebush against the Broncos, and I do remember Gordon. He spotted me up, and it was 1-on-1, and then I thought to myself, I'm going to have to give it all I've got here. And then he's come at me, and I got a little bit dizzy, and then he's gone away, and then they come back at me again, and I thought he's going to knock me out this time. But, we had the boys around us at the time, and, we just ended up putting in and put him on the ground. But, he was a hard man to tackle, Gordon Tallis, 100%.
Yeah, no, a few people have said Big Gordy. Is there a player that you didn't have an opportunity to play with that you would have loved to have played with? Even now, these days, is there?
Back then, I think if I really wanted to play with my own cousin Dino.
Okay.
Growing up, playing schoolboy stuff, we combined really well, and we knew each other how we played. The opportunity to play with him, was just wasn't there. Like we always played against each other. Excuse me. We played against each other when he was at the Roosters.
Okay. How did that go?
Yeah, well, no family on the field.
A few little head rubs or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. But, always, at the end of every year, we got the Aboriginal knockout that comes up in October, and, we just know how each other plays, and we just bounce off each other. But, the opportunity, to play with him in the NRL or even over in the Super League, it was disappointing not to get to play with him, but, it was good playing against him.
Probably would have had 2 super subs at Parramatta then, I think.
Yeah, well, they could only choose one, couldn't they then?
Yeah, well, I mean, when Dean was at Parramatta, he was like the super sub for Parramatta coming off the bench.
Yep.
Yourself as well. Who was the prankster at Parramatta when you were there?
I think it might have been Hindy. He was the one that doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes.
What did he get up to?
Oh, just silly stuff. Well, a lot of like nothing serious, but him and Mick Vella. Mick Vella was another one. Putting like orange peels in their boots after a game or something, or bananas in there, and just silly little stuff like that, or taking your undies and that away from you, or like putting them in, he put his ones in your boots, or that was I do a couple of memories of those boys from the dressing sheds.
I remember talking to Nathan Kalis, and I think Kalis was doing a media interview or something, and Hindy and Vella were behind him pulling faces or something like that, and they were with the cameraman, and the interviewers pulling faces and just trying to annoy Kalo.
Yeah, and see, those three were pretty tight growing up as well, but as I said, those two mostly stood out for everything that, the little things that they were doing stupid in the sheds, or when we go to functions, definitely pest.
But is that what you need in a footy club?
Oh, you do need some character. Otherwise it'd be boring, there was a lot of the boys that also had a bit of humour about them, but those two mainly stood out. You go to, especially Mick, like Mick can always thought he was a goal kicker as well.
Okay.
And he thought he could play golf and that as well, so like we go on to play these games, and Mickey Vella was more him than Marsh, but once seen him doing it, he jumped in on it as well.
Yeah, definitely some characters there. We briefly touched on it before, sledging from the crowd. What about on the field? Was there any sledges on the field or pests on the field?
We had a lot. Jimmy was good at it.
Yeah.
Jimmy was good at it. He got under everyone's skin. And, as I said, I liked the way he played. I liked what he done, and like how he done stuff like that. And that's where I learned how to do it as well, And it was good because he knew how to get under a player's skin and put him off his game. And I do remember one game that we played over at North Sydney. And, it was once the scrum packs, boys, it was on. So, and,
what were you thinking then? You're thinking,
Well, I'm thinking, hopefully I'm not on the field then. But actually was at the time, and Mark Sodom was the hooker.
Yeah.
And so when it was on, and I've just gone, well, I'm going to have to grab you, mate, because I'm not grabbing one of these big guys. They had the likes of, Big Steve Trindle, Jamie Goddard. I think he was over there, but he was at lock at the time. I do remember him there.
Yeah, probably a good thing after
100%.
his shot on Andrew Johns in the Origin.
Yep, that's right. But yeah, Jimmy was the most, the ones who can get under the skin. Jason Smith was good at it.
Yeah.
Johnny Simon was another one. Just talking up play, and it was good because you learn, and how to win games by putting off other players. So it was good to see that side of our boys as well. Your teammates play.
We've all sort of heard the rumours about Jason Smith, and we know that he's a smoker. Is it true that he ever had one at half time in the sheds at all?
100%.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Training, it'd be one before we train.
Yep.
Even one before we played.
Wow.
Now, look, I can nearly vouch for he'd actually had one at half time without Smitty knowing, I'd say.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but he was a man that, he took his heart and soul out on that field, and he gave 110% or whatever he did, Smitty. So it was good playing. He was just like Jimmy.
Yeah.
Another one that I enjoyed playing with at the time.
Yeah, and champion player. Obviously loved him at Parramatta. Didn't like him so much at Queensland or
the Raiders.
or Canterbury. But one little story that sticks out of my mind as well about that I think it was the North Sydney semi-final, is I can't remember who told me. I think it might have been Stuart Kelly. Brian Smith has come in at half time. He's done his little speech, and then he's walked out, and then Big Dino stood up and said, "Look, just don't worry about what he said. Let's just get out there and play footy, and we'll win the game," or something along those lines. Do you remember that one at all?
No.
Don't worry about what the coach says. Let's just go out and play footy.
And look, the boys would add that attitude too. And as a coach, and as a player, you sort of understand what players are thinking, and what coach wants, but the coach ain't going to get that out there because he's not out there, and you're going out there, and I can see why Dino would have said that as well. There's a lot of things that players think differently when they're out in the field, and it's not always the right thing that coaches say, but it's always not, it's not all the right thing that players do either.
And just aside from what we're talking about, with some of these coaches in the NRL at the moment being under pressure to save their jobs, how do you think that sort of fares, that it's always the coach that gets like the sack or from his job when it's not the players performing on the field? Because
it's always been like that. I think it's not going to change too much, but look, I don't know how they do it. For example, like poor old West Tigers, they're 0 from 7.
Yeah.
I watched their game last night, and I actually backed them to win, and I thought they were going to win. But I just, a lot of the players, I think, they go away and they go out in the field and they just forget about what they do at training, and what they've been told. You seen from last night's game, I just think, Happy Coruscant, he's 1 or 2 steps in front of his players that he has there at West Tigers. So whether they're up to speed with him, the way he plays the game, is totally different. So they've got to learn the way he plays as well. And that's what, good teams do. They learn each other how they play, and they bounce off that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's certainly always going to be around. We'll wrap things up with the set of 6 personality questions. Favourite sport outside of rugby league?
At the moment, I'm loving touch, just from my old mate, Cooney. So, the try-assist bloke. So, no, I do love touch football. I played it as a kid growing up as well and enjoyed doing that. So.
Favourite holiday destination?
Favourite holiday destination? I didn't really get away too much. I'm more of a camper.
Okay.
I like camping. Yeah. Just going out to, the bush and along the creek and just sitting around. I'm not really a big fan on going to a big hotel and, wine and dine and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sit by the fire, me. So.
Oh, no, that's fair enough. Who would be the most famous person you would love to meet, either dead or alive? Who would you love to meet?
Michael Jordan. I always, watched him playing basketball and that, and watched his documentary as well. I always was a fan of him growing up. Watching him, different sport. Michael Jordan would be the one, or Mike Tyson.
Oh yeah.
He's a bit of a character. And he's pretty much like myself. He says the right things, but doesn't mean to say them. That's me as well. I just say what I'm thinking and thought, I should have actually said that. So yeah, he would have been another one.
Did that ever cost you on the field by saying something then you realise you shouldn't have said it?
No. I got sent off. I got sent off when I first went back to the country. Back out in Group 11 to play, and I learned something that Jimmy taught me. The referee come over and he goes, "Mate, you can't swear out here. It's you get 5 minutes in the bin if you keep swearing." And I said, "Well, mate, can I think it?" And he goes, "Mate, you can think what you want." So I said to him, "Well, I think you're a effing cheat." So he sent me off.
Like it. Which 3 former Eels players wouldn't you want to be stuck on a deserted island with, and why?
Yeah, definitely Hindy, Kalis and Vela.
Okay.
Yeah, no, them 3.
3 amigos?
Definitely, yeah, 100%. Sometimes common sense didn't prevail with them, so yeah, it'd be definitely those 3.
Fair enough. What's your specialty dish in the kitchen or on the barbecue?
I used to like the old chicken pesto.
Okay.
Didn't mind cooking that every now and then, but now that we've got the boys, they're pretty fussy and that.
Okay,
and I get too frustrated, so the wife does all the cooking.
That's probably a fair point. I'm not much of a cook myself. I'm bacon and eggs and probably steak and sausages. That's probably about it.
Yeah, we don't mind the old bacon and eggs at home. So it's that every Saturday morning, actually.
Yeah.
So.
Did you ever have a post game meal that you used to religiously have?
Nah. That's why I was always in the overweight section with the when it comes to the fat measurements. They've always carried a little bit of a roll on me, and used to get always pulled up in pre-season that you're carrying too much body fat. I just like the old takeaway a bit too much.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And the last one, who's your favourite musician or band to listen to?
I'm a country music man.
Okay,
so I like any country music's on. Charlie Pride. I'm pretty much old school. Don't mind a little bit of the R&B stuff as well. But majority is all just country for me.
Did you manage to scoop any Luke Coombs tickets?
No, I'm still looking for them. I can't seem to get hold of any. I'm absolutely dirty. I missed out on him. I was on the phone for nearly 4 hours sitting there waiting. We still couldn't get him. So
I'm not too sure if your cousin Dean posted, but I'm not too sure if he's got any, so maybe hit him up.
I sat with him one day. We was there at his house one day and we were trying to get him. So if anyone out there has got any spare and want a little bit extra cash for him, I'll take them.
There we go. We've put the call out. Well, Dennis Moran, thank you very much for coming on the Parra Cave podcast today and coming to the Parra Cave. I really appreciate your time and your chat. And as I said, you played at the club that I love, the Parramatta Eels. I'm sure the fans will love the chat as well. So thank you very much for coming on the Parra Cave podcast today.
No worries, a pleasure. And thanks a lot. And let's see the boys get up this year.
How you going, mate? Are you a Parra Cave podcast listener?
I am, bro. It's a great podcast. Everyone tune in.
Go Parra.
Well, welcome back, and thanks for listening to Dennis Moran and his rugby league and life story. It certainly was interesting, and it's always great to talk to a player that played at the club I love in the Parramatta Eels. So, once again, I thank you, Dennis, for coming over to the Parra Cave and doing the interview face-to-face. I really appreciate your time, and I hope to catch up once again soon. Now, a shout out for the sponsors of the podcast, Parramatta Leagues, Jack's Pale Ale, which is exclusively available at Parramatta Leagues Club in the club shop. Also, Beau Cook from Loan Market, your local Penrith mortgage expert. You can contact Beau today on 0401 213 236. Get in contact with him and his team for a free chat, and let him know that you heard it here on the Parra Cave podcast. Also, Brightside Detailing and Ceramics. Scott, who owns and runs Brightside Detailing and Ceramics, is a certified detailer with over 20 years experience in the industry. So if you want to have the cleanest looking car in town, then contact Scott on 0449 544 086, and again, let him know that you heard it here on the Parra Cave podcast. He is also on Instagram as well at brightside_detailing_ceramics, and also BTZD, the official teamwear, BTZD Teamwear, the official clothing sponsor of the podcast. Now, there is a limited number of podcast shirts available for purchase, and it was great to see Shannon Cooney, our next sponsor from Glenmore Park Realty, wearing the podcast hat and polo, which you can purchase from myself at the Parra Cave podcast. So it was great to see him up in Brisbane at Magic Round wearing the podcast merchandise loud and proud. So thank you very much, Shannon, for your support, both by wearing the podcast merchandise, but also sponsoring the podcast as well. Shannon is from Glenmore Park Realty. If you're thinking of selling in the Glenmore Park or the suburbs in the Penrith LGA, then contact a 5-star real estate agent, which is Shannon, on 0421 588 445. Thank you to all the sponsors of the podcast. With your support, it is much appreciated. So, the Parra Cave podcast hats and shirts, there's a very limited number of shirts left. They will be $30 each, and you can see me wearing them in all of the videos that I do and pictures and the like. They look great, they feel great, so why not order one today? And hats as well, $15 each for the hats that you can get, plus postage and handling for both of those as well. So get in quick. Orders are flooding in, so get those quick and post them on social media. See if you can be the first or second or third or to post it on social media. So I reckon they look great, so why not grab them as well? Or you can get a combo as well, a hat and a shirt for $40 plus postage and handling. So all you need to do to order is head to any of the social media channels and send me a message, or send an email to www.theparracavepodcast@yahoo.com. Send your details and your request in, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Really appreciate the support. So also to you, the listeners, thank you for listening to the podcast. I really appreciate it. I hope you're really enjoying all of the content that is coming your way. I am even thinking of more content coming to you each and every week, so stay tuned for that one. You already have the Pulse FM chats that I have with the Duckman each Friday and Sunday as a podcast. You've got my excerpts from the Talking Parra podcast. as well, and you got the interview-based show, and there may be a few other little things coming your way as well, leading into Origin time. But also week to week as well. So still working on a little bit of things, so stay tuned for that one. But I really hope that you're enjoying all the content that is coming your way. I enjoy doing it. And if you do, please leave me a review and a 5-star rating as well on the podcast platform that you listen to. Look, have a great week as best you can. Enjoy your footy. But as I said, make sure you follow the podcast on the social media channels for some interesting content, but also to see who is coming up next on the podcast, both on Instagram and on Facebook as well. Some interesting guests coming your way and more content coming your way over the next few weeks. But to sign off the show, and as I always say, the Parra Cave podcast, by the fan, for the fans. Go Parra!
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Parra Cave Podcast. See you next time.